So I just want to have the lecture slides up in front of us. Okay. So let's do that. We'll do the testing. I want to start before your question. As I wrote you an email, 3 or 4 people asked me, I don't even know where to start. So you start at step 1, decide what to test. However, make sure your decision is the same as my decision. I've already decided what to test. But even within the somewhat limited scope of ranking, substitute ranking for absence, there still are, if you think about it, you'll see that there's maybe things within that. That even that function has got some width, some breadth to it. You'll need to focus it. But make sure you don't go off on a different tangent and say, well, what I'm really interested in is whether you can put in a invalid school or something like that. That's not what we're interested in. Okay. So once you've decided this, which pretty much is decided for you, go on to select a test case input. How do you do that? You use equivalence partitioning. It's a systematic approach. And step 1 is identify the set of all possible inputs. We won't do that in class because that's part of the homework. But what are the inputs to this process of ranking substitutes? Well, I don't think I'm giving anything away to say. It has something to do with substitutes. It has something to do with higher teachers. And maybe it has other things. Yeah, I want you to be a little more specific than that. So that's why I don't think I'm giving anything away. And that's actually part of the document that you'll turn in. There's a section that says what is the set of all possible inputs, and you'll describe that. Don't enumerate the set, describe the set. Okay? So once you've done that, then I think I've asked you twice to identify a basis for subdividing the set of inputs, and now I think we're at your question. So can you restate your question?
I was just going to make sure that the way we do equivalence partitioning is we take the set of all possible inputs, and then we split it into reasonable subsets, and then we take a sample of each subset and test those.
That is correct, though I'll add one thing. But the statement was once we've identified the set of all possible inputs, we break it into reasonable subsets, and let me just add to that. We first define a basis with which to break it into reasonable subsets. So maybe you would have done that, but I want to explicitly define a basis, because that's step number 2. And I asked you in the homework assignment, what's your basis? So name that, see explicitly. Your basis should be, and if you're saying basis, what's a basis? So a basis is a question you ask or a procedure or something that allows you to, in a sort of a systematic way, break a large set into subsets. And I don't know. The word basis I have found, I've used this word in the past, it's the standard word used for equivalence partitioning. Sometimes it's not intuitively clear to people what that is. So if you don't understand basis, then we'll just call it just make up a word. Assume it's a word in a foreign language, and I'm now defining it for you as a test or criterion that is used to determine whether elements in a large set should be in subset A, or subset B, or subset C, or subset D, or however many subsets you have. So, for instance, let me just give you a really bad basis, and I don't want to see this showing up in homework 3. You could say, does the teacher's name have an X in it? Okay, so that's lousy, but that divides the set of all inputs. Some of the inputs involve teachers with an X in their name. They go in this bucket. And some of the inputs involve teachers without an X in any place in the name, and they go in that bucket. Now, what's the problem with using X in the name as a basis?
Doesn't really help us.
Yeah, it doesn't help. So it's a lousy basis because it's very, very unlikely that the ranking functionality will have anything to do with X in the teacher's name. You could argue, yeah, how do you know? It's black box testing. We don't know how the program is implemented. We don't have the source code. Maybe it does. And so I guess I would have to say, yeah, you're right, maybe it does. Try it. If you have all the time in the world, try it. But the reality is you don't have all the time in the world, and when you're testing, you have to be smart, and you have to choose. It's good to choose bases that at least have some relationship to the actual data and what's happening. But you don't have the source code, so you don't really know, and you might well choose a basis that doesn't turn out to be all that interesting. And don't worry about that. Don't feel like, we're not going to be too picky on the bases as long as they have something to do with what we're talking about. So maybe your basis could be, well, I don't want to give anything away. So. Anyway, does that kind of make sense? So you choose the basis. That gives you some subsets, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6. And then from each of those, you choose one instance, and you fill out the matrix.
Could you give us an example on a different problem instead?
Can I give you an example of a basis on a different problem?
Yeah.
Well, we've done this in class a few times. Can I repeat one that we've already done?
New one, please.
A new one. Okay. Let's suppose. I don't want to choose anyone that's too programmery because I know some of you really aren't programmers. Let's suppose we want to test whether. Well, we did the soda machine, but let's suppose instead of the soda machine, it's the snack machine. Has anyone here used the snack machine over by the ICS building, where you put in $1 or $2 and then you press E4 for stale peanuts, or A3 for broken up cookies? Some of you have, evidently. You had the same experience as me. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, is that different enough? So first of all, we have to start at number 1. What's our input to the snack machine? Shout them out, come on. No one here's ever used the snack machine? Snacks, okay. So there need to be snacks in the snack machine. What else? Money, okay. The user, the snacks are put in by the owner, or some representative of the owner. The money is put in by the client, or the user. What else is input? The number. It's a letter-number combination, let's put it that way. Okay, you type in E3 or something. Anything else? Let's say that's good enough. We probably could think of other things, but let's say snacks, money, dollar amount, amount of money, and choice of E3 or whatever. Okay, so that's our input for our purposes. What's a basis for dividing? Obviously, there are many, many inputs, individual inputs. What's our basis for, what's a possible basis for dividing this large set of inputs into a subset? Multiple subsets.
You could have the button press based on the letter, A, B, C, D, E.
Which letter? Okay, which letter in the button press? And there are, it's probably like A through J or something like that. There's approximately 10 different letters. So we could have 10 subsets. All inputs that involve a button number combo that have the first letter is A. So let me give you a sample input for that. The snacks are 10 Cheez-Its and 12 Ring Dings and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to name it all, but all those wonderful, healthy snacks. And the dollar input is 2 $1 bills, and the button press is A3. That's a specific test case. What's my expected output? Someone want to run over the expected output is Ring Dings and 50 cents faster, or something like that, right? So what's another, using that basis, what's another subset? Well, all the ones that begin with a B. We could have 10 subsets if there are 10 letters. That's the sort of the natural thing for that. Okay? Does that make sense? Could you do that with sub-movie?
Okay, for our input,
Don't have ring dings coming out.
for our input box, we have to put like a lot of information in that, right?
For the input box, do you mean on the sub-movie website?
Sub-movie, because like if we
Do you mean on the sub-movie website or do you mean on the matrix, the testing matrix?
testing matrix.
Okay, so the testing matrix, you don't need to put in, if it doesn't fit conveniently, I'm not really too concerned about the format. If it fits conveniently, you can put it on the matrix. You can put that information. Or you could say, I'm going to define, say, teacher George Washington have these characteristics. And you can put that earlier in your document, and then just say George Washington, and we know you mean George Washington with this SSN and this PIN and this school and this classroom, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to put that all on the matrix, physically typed in. So organize it in a way that makes it readable. But think of it from the perspective of, you might actually give this matrix to a junior intern tester person and say, now run these test cases. So there needs to be enough information to actually do the test case. So don't just put in some teacher at some school. Name a school. You can name school anything you want. First put in a few starter schools, but I don't think that we don't have a separate database of valid schools. You can use your high school. Okay? I'm getting a stunned. Okay, yeah, we get it. Okay, well, we'll go with stunned. Okay.